In a city where truth wears cologne and lies awry with reservations, the most dangerous people are the ones who look like they belong. The Onyx Gallery did not serve food so much as it curated power. Senators bartered favors beneath hand-blown glass. Singers washed scandals down with rose. Professional saints blessed their deals with ethically sourced caviar. And a man seated beneath the chandelier, cufflinks catching molten gold, carried a legend on his shoulders like a bespoke coat. The visionary who turned nightlife into networks, velvet ropes into lines of credit, neon into a crown, to the swipeable world. He was the architect of pleasure gone respectable, the Afro-Korean billionaire who smiled like a slow knife. To those who said his name with the hush reserved for storms, yet another one they used only in corners. The panther Pohang, the one who learned to hunt by swimming under other people's waves. He did not fidget. He did not thirst. He sat like a decision. Across a field of cutlery and applause, a woman moved the way rivers do inside mountains. She didn't serve with a grin, designed to earn tips. She served with a stillness that made breath look optional. Her hair was pinned without apology. Her hands carried a surgeon's memory. When her eyes slid over the room, she did not clock celebrities or wine. She saw distances, angles, moments that could become exits. She walked like muscle memory had been drilled at gunpoint. She walked like if gravity misbehaved. She would negotiate. He watched her pretending not to watch, the way a hawk pretends it's just another bird. The glass didn't shatter. It detonated. The sound was champagne if champagne admitted what it wanted to be. The first pane turned into confetti made of knives, and out of the glitter stepped 5 men who looked like they practiced dying and found it unremarkable. Matte black gear, suppressed weapons, short hair, short mercy. Her body moved before her mind could send a disagree. Weight low, center found, breath locked in where it could do good. The metallic tang in the air pulled 1,000,000 hours of training out of storage. The cart beside her became a barricade, a wall, a $1,000 shield. The men split the way professionals do. 2 peeled toward the chandelier table. 1 sprayed the ceiling to turn panic into vision fog. Another locked the kitchen door with a chain whose links had cut other nights. The last stayed near the window, line of sight discipline like an unblinking eye. They didn't come to scare. They came to finish. The man under the chandelier didn't cower. He rose with the economy of a tool you didn't want to meet twice. The first shooter pointed center mass. Textbook clean. He stepped outside the math, caught the wrist, turned the world at a hinge, and let bone fail where it always fails. The gun felt like a confession. A palm found a throat. A knee found ribs. Somebody's breath left in a hurry and refused to return. A blade flashed, a sliver of moon on a bad night. He pivoted. His jacket surrendered a seam. His elbow kissed a temple with the affection only practiced men can afford. A heel found a knee that had planned for later. Plans changed. She flipped the linen cart into a battering ram and set it into the man, making the room smaller. Metal screamed. He flinched. Her hand found a steak knife. She did not throw it. She stapled his hand to the mahogany edge of the bar. The weapon bucked free. His mouth opened to negotiate. Blood answered on his behalf. The window shooter kept his distance, muzzle steady. Pulse slower than the room deserved. She saw his line. The man in the jacket was in it. Her hand snatched a chrome charger like a discus. It flew like a coin you'd bet your life with. It hit his cheekbone. He blinked. Half a second. It was enough. The man in the jacket closed the gap, caught the barrel, twisted up, and gave the ceiling a reason to snow crystal. The chandelier surrendered 1,000 diamonds. A head met another, and one of them believed in darkness again. The room remembered silence, the expensive kind money can't buy. They stood inside wreckage like choreography had been the plan. He breathed like a furnace. A slender line of red traced the impossible angles of his hairline down toward the collar. He looked like a god of war who would put on a suit because he enjoyed irony. She stared, realizing what everyone else had missed. The night hadn't needed saving. It had needed permission. "You hesitate when you can afford to," he said, voice roughened by adrenaline and something older. It wasn't an accusation. It was a reading. "You assumed I'd need to," she replied, and then almost smiled. which looked like thunder changing its mind. Sirens breathed somewhere out in the city. That sound wasn't help. It was paperwork arriving with shoes. "You move like a debt a government forgot to pay," he said, stepping closer through a field of other people's mistakes. "But you serve drinks in my house." "Your house?" she asked. "I own this building and the brick that looks like it's not part of it," he said, eyes never leaving hers. "Which means when blood hits my floors, I prefer to be approved in advance." "The police will need a story," she said. "No panic, only logistics. Try this one. Attempted kidnapping by train crew. Owner defended guests, no civilian casualties. The cameras had a bad night." "And you," he asked, "are you the part where angels forget they exist, or the part where people like me pretend we don't?" "I wasn't here," she said, weight shifting back a half inch like a promise of flight. "People like you don't talk to police," he said. "And men like those don't show up without someone marking an X. La Fratelanza hasn't used Los Angeles as an eraser in some years, but their new boys like to try on old clothes. And someone else wanted to cut an outlaw crew who believes speed is an ideology. They work together until they remember what betrayal tastes like." He reached up slow, like approaching a miracle that might bite, and wiped a speck of someone else's blood from her cheek with his thumb. The touch was nothing. Skin and heat, and it was everything. Electricity that questioned its ethics. He held the moment to the light. She led him. Only the air moved. "Stay," he said. "Not a beg. Not an order. Something truer and more difficult. An idea with a heartbeat." "I don't take orders," she said, the words not proud so much as factual. "Then take advice," he said. "They saw you. They will come for you, because they like useful things. And when they come, they won't bring paperwork." He held her gaze as if people didn't blink when they were important. She stepped back. He stepped forward. They read each other like maps drawn in languages nobody taught, because teaching would mean admitting. "The sirens are close," she said softly. "You'll need to look devastated." "I'll look like whatever it takes," he said, and in that there was either vanity or a survival technique in a tux. The first responders closed in. The floor smelled like a chemical argument, and she slipped through the kitchen without looking back. He let her go because people hate being owned. He didn't let the moment go because sometimes your life is a hinge and you have to respect hardware. 48 hours of camera flash and headlines later. The penthouse ate sky for breakfast. The city below crawled like blood cells in glass arteries. He held a scotch he wasn't drinking. He held a question he wasn't naming. His security chief arrived without knocking because permission was for other floors. "We found her," the chief said, and dropped a photo on the table. A Koreatown dive that had stopped pretending to be sad about the neon dying. The Rusty Lotus. Inside, a woman poured quiet into glasses and made men believe they could hold things. She walked out of the Onyx gallery through a kitchen that had seen better stories. The chief said, "Her paperwork exists only since 2016. Before that, she was geography without a passport. The 5 men at your table wore we traced Ielsa Colonero, a newer crew desperate for purchase. They aren't running this alone." "Black Lance MC," he said softly, the syllables tasting like gasoline. Their colors meant something on the southwest route. "They've been hungry. Hungry families make bad friends." Word says Niccolo Vitali took his father's Godfather complex and turned it into a revenge hobby, the chief said. "He likes spectacle. He likes his name to be a gun. He's about to learn the cost of theater," the man said, and was already standing. Traffic bled neon into the street as a Mercedes moved into Koreatown like a piece returning to its square. The Rusty Lotus smelled like stale ambition and the kind of sweat earned legally. A few souls hunched over drinks they could afford. She was behind the bar, moving like water, wearing a human suit. Their eyes met across with scar by confessions. He sat. She approached as if distance had taxes. "Whiskey," he said. "Not the kind you sell to men who need to forget. The kind that knows it's a mistake." "There's only one kind here," she said, "and it doesn't do ethics." He drank a mouthful of regret and made his face a meadow. "You could have left the city," he said, "but you're still here, serving penance by the ounce. You think running is invisibility," she said, Wiping a ring off the bar would practice indifference. It's not. It's gravity. After a while, you get tired pretending you don't exist. Is someone hunting you? He asked. You are, she said. And 3 men in a black SUV outside that camera right there. They've been at it for hours. One waved. He set his phone on the bar and flipped the screen. Photos. The van. Men with patience. One smiling for the lens. A smile without humor. I rattled them, he said. They will be less polite next time. Then next time I won't be here, she said. The words didn't reach her eyes. I have a problem, he said. A leak. Someone is feeding my enemies timed opportunities and well-lit hallways. You have a skill set that plays well with shadows. Help me plug the hole before the city forgets what a ceasefire feels like. You think I want to be your weapon again? She asked, the word again landing like a scar that had not forgotten. I'm offering partnership, he said. Equal risk, equal say. I'm not asking for obedience. I'm asking for results. And if I refuse, she said, I'll put men on your corners anyway, he said, because I don't let wolves pick who eats. Also because we're past the part where politeness keeps people breathing. She studied him like he was a language with grammar that lies. Something in her face loosened. Not acceptance so much as a decision to stop pretending she hadn't already decided. One condition, she said. I'm not your employee. I'm not your good deed. I'm your partner. When I say no, it means no. When I say go, it means we go. He offered his hand. It was a business gesture that knew it wasn't. She took it. The grip was clean. The air vibrated. He drove her through a city that wore its sins like good cologne. The penthouse made the evening look cheap. She walked to the window and counted the city in impacts and opportunities. He poured a whiskey that spent more years sitting than some nations have had constitutions. This place is a vault pretending to be an apartment, she said. I can work with that. What are you afraid of? He asked. Softness, she said. If you can't weaponize it, it gets you killed. If I confuse chemistry with connection, I'll apologize with distance, he said. You wouldn't know how to leave if someone wrote you a script, she said, and the corner of her mouth admitted it wanted to move. He tucked a stray strand behind her ear, a gesture so gentle it could be called violence. Something gave way. She leaned into a touch like it had never been offered, without a price. He kissed her, because walking around it would have been cowardice. She kissed back because some denials insult their subjects. They were careful, and not at all. They were patient and also in a hurry, because time is not real in rooms like that. The city stopped pretending it had good intentions, and their mouths kept a promise their bodies knew how to keep. They dissolved the inches between them with hands and heat. There are worse mistakes than choosing a person who understands the weight you carry, because they were born under it. He was dressed when the burning of the Onyx gallery hit his phone. The word arson making a shape that could hold 3 bodies. They were dead before the fire remembered oxygen. The alley wall across from his restaurant wore a message somebody thought was poetry. Panthers drowned too. Their metaphor needs work, she said, pulling a jacket on his shoulders that could carry an empire. But their commitment is clear. They use accelerants my insurance won't say out loud, he said, and they want to come find them too angry to be useful. Then be useful, she said. Play broken. Sell grief. Hit them somewhere they can't televise. Fire squatted in the street, like a cathedral that had lost faith in its own prayers. Police stretched tape between opinions. Cameras blinked like hungry animals. His chief led them to the wall, the red letters drying into a dare. He did not blink. She felt the small tremor in his hand, the one rage carries before it gets named. Where? He asked, and none of the syllables bothered with charity. Old textile off the river, the chief said. Rumors, not coordinates. They'll be waiting with a camera crew inside their eyes. He walks into that. He dies photogenic, she said, standing between impulse and the way out. You like revenge? Take it cold. Take it slow. Leave him nothing to baptize himself with. What do you need? He asked. All of it, she said. Port blueprints, container logs, payroll whispers, lists of names with motives that aren't cash. She turned back to the wall. The spray paint dripped as if red had opinions. She took a breath that tasted like wire. And a performance, she said, looked shattered. Let him believe the fire worked. Let him lower his gun for a picture. His phone buzzed. The chief's face tightened, which told the story before he used words. Your storage unit registered under her alias just exploded, he said. Gas. That's the song the fire department is singing. They assumed I'd go home, she said, voice without tremor. They assumed I had won. You do now, he said. Argue later. They drove a road that believed it belonged to more important people and arrived at a glass and concrete box that hung over a canyon, the way a dare hangs from a daredevil's lip. Inside, the house was all sharp edges and expensive restraint. Wind pawed at the glass. The ocean in the distance rehearsed its own violence. Power makes you visible, she said, walking perimeter and counting, always counting. Visibility makes you interesting. Interesting gets you killed. What turned you into an equation? He asked. It wasn't an accusation. It was curiosity without any expectation of a thank you. I wasn't broken, she said. I was sharpened. Governments don't own their monsters. They rent them until the ink dries. I did jobs in places that say they don't exist. I moved lives like pieces, and then I stopped because I ran out of reasons that felt like someone else's. You chose to step back into the light, he said. I chose a target I can see, she said. It's not the same thing. They slept a few hours because not sleeping was a luxury they couldn't afford. He woke to the smell of smoke in a room where there shouldn't be any. The Onyx Gallery was now a crime scene with a point of view. The city made its noise. He adjusted his face into grief, and then into fury, and then into nothing useful to law. They made a list, not on paper. He spoke the names of the inner circle. She listened for friction. Loyalty rarely breaks on the checkout line. It breaks where old wounds find new reasons. Who has family in Italy? She asked. Who married emotions that would happily kill you? Who's bored enough to touch the stove just to see a color? He said names. The one that stuck to the wall had a clean face and a tidy career. Operations. Trusted with schedules, the waltz of trucks, the ballet of money. The man had a wife nobody had met, a sister who collected secrets for a living because she called it politics, and a habit of arriving to meetings 5 minutes early and leaving exactly on time. Nobody is that precise without practice. He'll be cautious, she said, which is another word for arrogant. They needed to flip the alliance that made the attacks possible. If Black Lance MC was riding with Niccolo Vitali, then the port belonged to Knives. She set a meet where asphalt remembers every tire. The biker bar wore leather, and history like gods were thunder. They walked in together. Eyes weighed them. A man with kind of face you get when you smile with broken teeth too often stepped forward, wearing the Black Lance patch with the easy posture of a king. His name had been earned the usual way, the hard way. People called him Cutter. He let it sound like a threat. She let him. You're young for ancient enemies, she said, standing close enough to be counted. And you look like problems that cancel other problems, he said without moving his eyes from hers to the man at her shoulder. That makes you interesting. I charge for interesting. The Italians will pay you, she said, and then sell you to the police with evidence they created and alibis you can't afford. It's a script older than you and less creative. What makes you think I want to live forever? Cutter asked with a smile that liked itself. Nothing, she said, but I think you want to choose the day and the terms. They aren't offering that. She slid a phone across a table that had cached more sins than you could scrub off with bleach. A recording played. Niccolo's voice, smooth like oil on a slick floor. He laughed about Fall Guys. He laughed about TV time. He named Black Lance as the body that would fall first. Cutter's pupils narrowed in that way men's eyes do when the mind is busy burning an old contract. What are you offering, he asked. Cold revenge and a share in silence, the man beside her said. You stand down while we cut the head. Your people don't die in a port raid. After, you reclaim your routes without Italian hands in your pockets. If you betray me, I will take your roads, and I won't give them back to the sunrise. Cutter laughed. It sounded like something in a metal shop. You two fight pretty, he said. Pretty gets people killed. "We don't fight pretty," she said. "We fight alive." They left with neutrality that had teeth. It wasn't trust. It was calculus. The storm rolled over the ridge like an appointment. The safe house swallowed darkness until it had to spit some back to sea. The first flash of light on the glass wasn't lightning. It was a muzzle pretending to be weather. The windows held, as reinforced dreams do. A team was at the back entrance, quiet, competent, the sort of men who scrub their souls for dinner. She moved through the house like she owned it. He did the same. Somewhere in the dark, a man with soft shoes died because a woman with better hands didn't want to hear him. They put one down and took him back up again, not to torture, but to edit. He told them things with his eyes averted because shame has muscle memory. The leak was a name they had both let themselves think and then hated themselves for thinking. Operations. Punctuality dressed as morality. A man who never drank at company parties and never missed a child's recital, he didn't seem to enjoy. His cousin ran a freight yard. His brother-in-law had a last name that made deals suddenly easy in neighborhoods that used different alphabets for the word law. They had their betrayer. Seojin, the chief, brought the proof in files and ashes. The calls had been made from phones that nobody on payroll should forward on their salary. The times lined up with moments when opportunity knocked without introducing itself. The betrayer had listed a fake mother on an HR form, and a fake mother had been dead 3 years before the man was born. Details. Details hang people better than rope. They didn't arrest him with fanfare. They folded him into an unmarked car and let his sense of being a detail man search for details that mattered. He talked when they said nothing. He cried when it was expensive. He said the word sorry like it was brand new, and then tried on the word victim. It didn't fit. The chief turned and walked out because rage likes to be fed, and he had decided to starve it. She stood by the door and didn't blink until the man remembered he was allowed to stop lying. He gave them the pier number and the hour chosen for spectacle. He gave him the name of the ship that would carry proof. He gave him the habit his boss had of turning deaths into televised metaphors. They made a plan that tasted like metal. She mapped forklifts and cover stories. He counted men he could afford to lose and hated the number because it had a face. The chief handled the parts that required prayer. Blackland stood down and sent a text with no words in it. That meant, "We're not coming." Sometimes neutrality is grace. He wrote a statement for the cameras that said, "Tragedy," and meant bleed. He hired mourners to attend a press conference he arranged 3 blocks away from where his life would exit the stage if he failed. He looked broken enough to attract pity, but not so broken that investors fled. The balance became a thing they could respect. The port had a personality. It smelled like work and secrets and metal. The night carried a stormed away a pocket, holds a knife. They wore uniforms that had borrowed badges and poor taste. Nobody looks at men who look like they're allowed to be there. That's the trick. That's always a trick. A drone hummed because people with money like pretend they're omniscient. It died because people with training remember gravity is a friend. The ship was a maze of steel and cargo and regrets. The crew had been paid to be deaf. Money buys obedience. Fear buys performance. Tonight had both. Niccolo Vitali had a way of turning a room into a camera, even when no camera was present. He wore a suit that had not deserved him. He wore a face that had never told the truth by accident. He put a hand on a crate, like it was a pulpit. He began to speak, because men who see themselves as sermons always do. He spoke about bloodlines and debts in theater, and the cruelty of men who build empires on smiles. He forgot to consider that some empires learned to lift weights. Halfway through his poem, a floodlight woke up and decided it knew who to love. It loved the crates behind him. It loved the men whose eyes narrowed because something in the angle of shadow felt wrong. The first explosion wasn't fire. It was sound. It tore a hole in the night sentence and poured white noise into ears. The second wasn't destruction. It was foam, choking the staging, suffocating everything with a wet, impossible mess. Men who thought they knew what the ground would be tomorrow fell down laughing or dying. In that moment, there wasn't much difference. The third was light, a flare that turned shadows into liabilities and forced everyone to remember they were exposed. Chaos loves lovers. He moved through it like he'd married it. She did too. They did not search for each other because they did not have to. They were mathematics the room didn't understand. Hands, eyes, feet, breath. A hit, a pivot, a take, an arm barred, a knee placed, a gun permitted to stop participating. A man told softly to sleep. Nicolo ran the way wealthy men run when they realize they are mortal, badly. He bounded over a stack of crates and found the wrong hallway, the one that ends in the memory of decisions you've made. She was there. The man caught up because he doesn't leave people he likes alone in rooms with his enemies, if he can help it. They flanked the expression on Nicolo's face until it had to choose something else. Nicolo put his hands up. Words fell out that sounded like money trying to impersonate remorse. She didn't fire. She hates waste. The man spoke very softly about fathers who drown and sons who become lighthouses for grief. Nicolo tried to smile. It looked like a bruise rehearsing. The chief hauled him out with wrists that had always been bracelets in waiting. The betrayer waited in a car where dignity can't find you. The port remembered how to be a port. The storm remembered it had spared them long enough to be polite. Then it opened its mouth. They held for 12 hours because that's how long it takes to calm an ecosystem you've tried to burn. Men bled. Men didn't. Some of them went home with stories. Others went home with silence. The drips from the overhang counted time. The news ran the tape. The city drank a neat narrative because complication doesn't sell well at noon. The man went on camera with a face that knew how to honor the dead while promising the living something that could pass for comfort. He extended a hand to community leaders, to politicians who enjoy outrage when it's clean, to pastors who knew the price of eulogy. He promised reform of nothing specific and got credit for intention. She watched from a shadow and decided which bridges to burn later. The betrayer pled to a lesser thing because people with information always do. He will see sunlight again. He will not enjoy it. Nicolo hid behind counsel with hair that cost more than the weekly food budget of the men who died for his metaphors. The DA smiled into a cup of coffee and said the word leverage like prayer. Black Lance returned to their roads with a caution that smelled like survival. Cutter sent a helmet with the Black Lance insignia to the penthouse. No note. It looked good on the shelf where the man kept other kinds of trophies. He won't admit our trophies. They stood at a window that did not know how to lose. The city pulsed below like an animal, still deciding what kind of creature wants to be. She walked barefoot on floors that warmed themselves because money hates discomfort. He watched her like she was something he would avoid losing his entire life, and then forget to when it mattered. This was a mistake, she said quietly, knowing she wasn't talking about the raid or the men they burned out of a story. Everything is, he said. The trick is choosing which ones you agree to own. They will use this, she said. Us. Someone will carve into your ribs with my name on their knife. Let them try, he said without heat. I've been alone behind walls, so high even the sun got bored. You walked in like the locks were politeness. I'm done with pretending I can't be touched. You barely know me, she said. It wasn't an attempt to make him leave. It was grief for the day he might. I know enough, he said. I know the way you move when fire forgets it has rules. I know you trace exits with your eyes even when there's nowhere to go. I know you let me touch your face and didn't treat it like theft. That's a lot for a week. She laughed. It sounded like something inside her remembered how. You think you can carry me with the other weights you like to wear, she said. But I don't sit well. I don't sit anywhere. Then stand, he said. I don't need a decoration. I need a partner. I need someone who will tell me no when my anger argues it should be allowed to be a god. Equal say, she said, even when it makes you hate me. Especially then, he said. They didn't press their bodies together like absolution. They stood side by side with city at their feet and storms rehearsing the next act and made an oath that did not require witnesses. When the world tries to name them later, the names will be wrong. That's fine. The truth requires less applause. They buried 3 staff members with flowers that had the decency not to be cheap. The families came in suits that had seen weddings and one other funeral. He held hands tonight. He wouldn't have crossed streets for last month and didn't fake the ache it cost. She stood at the back, spine straight, eyes steady, because grief likes to be seen by people who won't let it pretend it is unique. The city calmed like a bruise does. Less color, same pain. The ports reopened. Money returned to its appointed rounds. His board smiled like frightened men do when their shares rise again. Politicians pointed at cooperation while not cooperating. The chief slept 2 nights in a row and thought he was getting away with something. They kept working. They hunted whispers. They put fences up around businesses that had only ever known doors. They sat with men who wore colors and said, "You can live, but you will live my way near my house." They drew a line other men called arrogance and they called breathing. They let black lands keep dignity because theft is cheap and dignity pays interest. They fought, sometimes, not other people, each other. Rage asked to drive. She told it to shut up. He wanted to walk into rooms with a gun and a proverb. She reminded him that cameras are cheaper than bullets. He reminded her that some conversations need to be had in languages that don't sound like compromise. They found a rhythm in which both of them hated something every day and loved something else enough to survive it. He asked once about the program whose name she wouldn't give. She did not answer with syllables. She answered with a small scar near her rib she didn't explain, and a story about a boy with eyes like lakes who never got old enough to forget what war smells like. He held her without speeches, because speeches are for people who can't think of anything better to do with their tongues. She asked once about Busan, about Legos, about the man whose blood beat 2 languages against each other in his wrists. He told her about mothers who teach silence like it's math, and fathers who teach you how to carry yourself like a secret. He told her about a night on a pier far from this one, when men decided to come for a version of him that died so another could leave. He did not weep. She did not ask him to. She just took his hand at the end, without making any promises to the future. And because the world is messy enough to be real, not everything they touched stayed in one piece. One of the men who carried an extra gun to the Onyx Gallery died a month after the port raid, not in a fight, in an alley where a needle didn't believe in limits. They paid for a funeral. His mother didn't understand how to accept. They did it anyway, because money is useful, but not for the reasons people write down. The leak became a cautionary tale. The betrayer took a plea and a job nobody will discuss in a prison nobody will fix. He is alive. That was the point, even if it wasn't satisfying. Niccolo Vitali faded into the background of other headlines because his face isn't a miracle. Other men took his seat at tables that can't be seen from the street. The enmity the city breathes never stops. It just finds different lungs. At the Onyx Gallery's rebuilt entrance, opening night wore black not because it was slimming, but because they remembered. The chandelier returned, not the same, wiser. He stood at the door and shook hands with men who could not spell his name without a staff member texting them from inside their pocket. She moved through the room with eyes that measured happiness as if it was an exit to be trusted. They didn't touch because the cameras wanted that. They touched anyway later, when the city had exhausted itself with admiration. They kept the oath without engraving on anything. That's how oaths survive. They refused to be statues. They refused to be a secret. They were a rumor some believed because they needed to and others denied, because envy pays in denial. They did not seek a happy ending. They built a durable next chapter, day by day, against a backdrop that hated permanence, and in a house suspended over a canyon. On a night when rain tried again to make a point, they sat on a floor that warmed their feet and spread a map that did not have a legend. They weighed routes. They counted cameras. They crossed out names and underlined numbers. They argued without shouting and kissed without apologies. They fell asleep with the lights on and 2 pistols on the table, because love does not abolish the need for plans. If you are searching for a moral that ties everything into a bouquet you can pin to a lapel, go to a wedding. This is a city, and cities don't do morals. They do oaths. They do choices. They do the calculus of tenderness and violence performed in the mouth of a monster that calls itself beautiful, because sometimes it is. The Onyx Gallery thrived like a proof. The ports quieted like an equation, solved to the satisfaction of nobody. Black Lance rode a little slower and lived a little longer. The chief bought a plant that refused to die and took it personally when it tried. The press moved on to a church selling hope at a discount. The man and the woman did not move on. They moved forward, which is different and harder. When grief came, as it always does, they did not pretend they could outthink it. They let it sit at their table and eat without conversation until it left on its own. If you have never felt the grip of a hand that means vow more than ownership, you should know it is heavy and warm and surprisingly gentle. It feels like standing in a storm with someone who knows where the lightning will land and loves you enough to tell you anyway. It feels like waking to the smell of smoke and choosing not to run because the person next to you is already up, already counting, already moving the furniture out of the way of the exit you both plan to use and not use. It feels like a city that forgives nothing and forgets less, offering you one more night to do it right. They took that night, and the next, and the next. That is the whole story and none of it. The rest is work. The rest is planning a future nobody has promised and building it like a road made of stubbornness and grace. The rest is them and the door and the idea that together is not safety, but it is better. Somewhere, a boy practicing with pocket knife will grow into a man who thinks the world owes him spectacle. Somewhere, a girl tracing exits in a classroom will grow into a woman who knows how to turn loss into geometry. Somewhere, an old vow waits for new mouths. The city approves. It always does when it recognizes its kind. The Onyx Oath held, not because either of them believed in destiny, because they believed in repetition, in waking, in moving, in making 1,000 small decisions that point in the same direction until a direction becomes a history no spray paint can taunt out of existence. They did not promise forever. They promised tonight and meant it. Then they promised tomorrow when it arrived bruised and bright. And when the next storm came, and it will, they will stand again beneath glass and thunder, count the angles, file the edges, choose their mistakes and own them, and go to war in a city that never sleeps. Not because it is restless, but because it is testing their oath. They will pass. They already did. They already do. Thank you for staying until the last ember at the Onyx Gallery went cold. If the obsidian oath between them moved you, please subscribe, leave a like, and share what hit you in the comments. This isn't just a tale. It's a vow forged in glass, smoke, and storm. Don't wander far. The next story is already waiting in the rain.